After World at War was released, people were tired of World War II shooters. Oh well, the genre became oversaturated as World War II shooters started to lose interest, so something needed to change, and why not go into a different era, a modern era. And that happened with Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, and it was a massive hit. I know Modern Warfare wasn't the first-person shooter to jump into the modern era, but it did help popularize it. And then so, Activision was now fully going into the modern era due to the high sales it gave. For World at War, it did sell well, but it wasn't talked that much like Call of Duty 4, so many people jumped on the bandwagon of going into the modern era of warfare. Many other rivals to Call of Duty joined in on too, so with the release of Modern Warfare 2, the genre was still a hit, and that, Call of Duty began to take off more. Since Infinity Ward developed and released Modern Warfare 2, it was time for Treyarch's turn into the modern era, and they were going to do something uniquely different, making a game based off the Cold War. How are they going to do it different? Since Treyarch leans on the historical sense, and then there wasn't a major conflict during the Cold War, and what I mean by that is the Cold War never got heated, so the Cold War only dealt with proxy wars, and it was heavily espionage between the Americans and the Soviets. The KGB versus the CIA. Both agencies tried to find a way to get information or to one-up the other in any other way, and to thwart each other's ideology, minimizing its influence across the globe. By using black operations, covert operations that were never meant to be traced back to the origin of the country's spy agency, and to be hidden from the public eye, so these operations were highly secretive. And it was until today that most of these operations became declassified. So typically the nature of these spy agencies had a lot of conspiracies to them, as it was widespread due to these operations of what they did and what they actually didn't do. So how was Treyarch gonna do this? They weren't gonna turn Call of Duty into some sort of spy game. Call of Duty is more into action, so it would be kinda difficult in order to incorporate some of the Cold War espionage into the campaign, but they did it really well with Call of Duty Black Ops, one of the most sold Call of Duty games ever. Now for Black Ops 1, it takes place in the middle of the Cold War when things almost became heated between the Bay of Pigs invasion and when South Vietnam was losing to North Vietnam. But those two wars, or those 2 points, were not the main focus of the story. They were almost like set pieces, as we're mostly focused on characters now, as it's more story driven. It mainly focuses on one protagonist, Alex Mason, a CIA operative. And also to a little note, I might be wrong on this, but I think he's the first protagonist to have a voice in the campaigns. I might be wrong on that though. But anyways, so gone was the silent protagonist era, now we have the voice protagonist era now, making it more story driven and more character focused. And as we start the game, we get one of the most iconic main menus. As to the right of us, the TV shows footage of the Cold War, some of the proxy wars, and other CIA related stuff. To the left of us, we see the main menu of war, campaign, multiplayer and zombies and the other stuff. But the thing is, what are we doing in a chair? And it looks like we're in an interrogation room. All of that will be answered in the campaign. But before I get into that, here are some warnings. The first one is going to be a health warning, as this video game has a lot of flashing images, and it does it in a quick succession. So if you're sensitive to flashing images in rapid succession, I will advise you just skipping the video altogether. And for the second warning, well, it's more trivial, as I will be talking about the whole game, so naturally there's going to be spoilers, and this game has an amazing twist towards the end, so if you haven't played it, well, you're going to be spoiled. But anyways, with those 2 warnings out of the way, let's get into the story. Alright, when you start the campaign, you wake up in a daze, an interrogation room automatically being questioned. And I will just show you guys the cutscene as it's better just to show it. And I'll have timestamp in the description if you want to skip me to the yapping.
Are you?
That's not important. What's important is who you are. What's your name?
Fuck you!
Where were you born?
Kiss my ass!
Your name is Alex Mason. You were born in Fairbanks, Alaska. In 1961, you served in a CIA assassination team known as Operation 40. Is that correct? Is that correct?
Yes.
Where's the broadcast station?
I don't know what you're talking about.
The numbers, Mason. What do they mean? Where are they
I
broadcast
don't know
from?
anything about any numbers.
What about Dragovich? Do you remember him? Give us what we want, we'll guarantee your safety. Let's start at the beginning. Cuba, 1961, the Bay of Pigs. We know you were there.
These people who are interrogating us, well, we have no clue who they are. They know who we are and we work for the CIA, and they have no patience for us as they keep shocking us, due to us not quickly answering their questions and not getting what they want, as it's something about numbers and a number station. And whenever the numbers are being mentioned, a voice talking in a sequence of codes of numbers begin to play in our heads, and we're fixated on these numbers, as we're mainly focused on one person, Dragovich, and also to what Mason said in the beginning, Reznov. But the thing is it the same Reznov from the previous Treyarch title? So with that, with being a very cryptic and not being told as we're thrown into the situation, as we have to go back from the start of the beginning with Mason, and how we got to this situation. And we start in Cuba, with Operation 40 and helping the Bay of Pigs invasion. Out of all the Call of Duties, I like how this one differently starts from all the other ones, or well, all the previous ones, as we're no longer playing as a soldier, or the many characters you played like in the Modern Warfare series. We're focused on only one character, and this is Mason's story. I know later on we play as Reznov and Hudson, but the most important focus is on Mason. But by this point in the story, we're completely playing as a CIA operative, no longer a soldier just like World at War, a whole different experience. And Chura keeps it in the fashion of taking inspiration and using historical events as set pieces for the story. So what I like about this game is that with every start of the mission, I like we have extra bits of information on the bottom left, but as it continues on, it becomes crossed out with black ink, signifying the famous classified document of where to use black ink on, as that only a few bits of information are meant to be seen and the other remains to be classified. But of course, back to the game. The game is not a spy game as it went into the action already with the first mission. And it's kind of funny, we're supposed to be CIA working under the shadows, yet here we are fighting against the Cuban police, causing a lot of explosions and noise. I know it's before the Bay of Pigs invasion, but I feel like this is too much noise. I'm not really against it, it's just a weird nitpick, as certain parts of the game are reminding me of an 80s action movie. But I guess they had to do it, so because there wouldn't be a massive genre change, but definitely a different far cry of emotions from World at War. But back to this, since we are a CIA operative, we're doing our own operation, as the operation is to assassinate Fidel Castro, leader of Cuba, and in the middle of the Bay of Pigs invasion, we were supposed to assassinate him. But we fail as the whole operation was for nothing, just like the real life Bay of Pigs invasion, as it was a complete failure, and in game, we kill a body double of Castro, which reflects the real life aspects of Castro as he dodged many assassination attempts for the CIA. The reason the CIA wanted to kill Castro was that he was a communist and he had too much friendly relations with the Soviets. This was alarming to America as a whole, as the Soviets can take advantage and use Cuba as a missile ground. Well, a missile ground to hit the US first, as the next year after the Bay of Pigs invasion, the Cuban Missile Crisis happens. But of course this game doesn't reflect it as we're still in the Bay of Pigs invasion. But due to the friendly relations with the Soviets, Castro overturns us to them, as it was a good deal. CIA operative under Soviet control, perfect for a sleeper agent operation for the Soviets, and Dragovich has plans for us. So Mason gets transported to Vorkuta, a real-life prison, one of the brutal gulags in the Soviet Union, a labor camp. And in this camp, Mason was broken here. But at least we have a certain someone that we know, Reznov, and he's here to help us. Mason was in Vorkuta for half a year, but he was able to escape with the help of Reznov, as Mason was able to befriend Reznov and they were able to cause a prison riot. Reznov coming up with steps of how to cause the riot for freedom.
This is step one! Secure the keys! Now, we take Vorkuta!
Now, the Vorkuta riot was based off a real-life event, but the game takes some creative liberty and makes it a couple years after the real-life event. But in the game, we have Reznov and he rallies every prisoner and including us. To him, we are soldiers without an army, forgotten, but yet in Vorkuta, we are brothers. And his way of speech resonates with Mason, as Mason befriends Reznov and he helps him survive in the Gulag hellhole and breaks us out, and never left Mason's side throughout the whole thing, as he wanted us to have freedom. When Mason retells the story about Reznov and the escape of Vorkuta, he speaks highly of Reznov to the interrogators for saving his life and giving him freedom, as Reznov sacrificed himself to make us free.
Come on! Step 8, Reznov! Freedom!
For you, Mason! Not for me!
Reznov!
After Vorkuta, Mason was picked up by Hudson, as he was able to escape to the west, another CIA operative, to be our handler. The CIA didn't trust Mason as he befriended a Russian, a communist, and what he went through in Vorkuta, as they weren't really sure if his mind was broken yet, as he was gone in Vorkuta for a long time, but Mason pulled through and was needed to kill Dragovich, seeing how he was been the closest to him. Or well, he almost got to him. But a subtle tone change happens to Mason when he's talking back to the interrogators. I guess you could say in almost like a monotone voice, like he was repeating an order, and that Dragovich was not the only one he wanted to kill, as there were others.
Yeah, there were others. Others I was supposed to kill.
Since Mason was cleared for CIA duty, he was the first in line to go against Dragovich in order to assassinate him, and was brought to the Pentagon. But Mason's memory kept flashing and felt completely paranoid as he walks through the Pentagon to meet the president. He felt like an animal in a cage as the numbers kept blaring in his head as he kept hearing them. They were telling him to do something, and that something was forcing him to do something in order to complete an objective. This objective was very cryptic, as it goes along with the game's crypticness of it. Further into the Pentagon, Mason sits down with the president, JFK, but something weird happens. as the numbers get much louder and everything slows down in time, and the footage of JFK's assassination is in the background. But everything goes to normal until it doesn't. Well, something weird happens. Mason hallucinates shooting JFK with his pistol. But it goes back to normal as JFK briefs on the mission of killing Dragovich and the new operation, Operation Flashpoint, to stop the space program. We're a part of the space program as this facility has long-range missiles, and the project is used for space use and for military use for nukes. As in this facility, it has the Ascension Group working on these projects as they are German scientists from World War II, which were brought in after the end of the war. And also the same thing the Americans, as they did the same thing as it was Operation Paperclip, that we brought in German scientists from World War II to help with our space program, and also long-range missiles. But with that, we are sent to the facility to take out the whole program altogether. But on this facility, there's a mole, but the mole gets caught as it's Weaver, and he gets his eye taken out. As we see another person who we saw captured us during back in Cuba, Kravchenko, and he's Dragovich's right-hand man. And also too, Dragovich is here, but you see him towards the end of the mission. Well, we don't really see him. You go after him at the end of the mission. Mason has a complete obsession in killing Dragovich, almost like he was programmed to, despite being told to. And what I mean by that, the CIA told him to kill him, but they didn't fixate him to just kill him only. For the others, he acts like a machine wanting to kill Dragovich. Towards the end of the mission, Dragovich escapes and he takes out his limo. As it was taken out, Mason wanted to know if Dragovich was dead as he wanted to see the body, but Woods tell him no, we need to leave, he's already dead. But they never confirmed the kill, so Mason was obsessed killing Dragovich for 5 years as he kept hearing the numbers and Russian voices in his head. But we can already tell he's being brainwashed, or he was brainwashed, from the actions of Vorkuta. But we still don't know what happened to him there or what caused him to be brainwashed in Vorkuta. Because the only thing that makes sense is the JFK attempt assassination, while killing Dragovich and the others doesn't make sense. Why would the Soviets do this? But still, this didn't stop Mason to be employed by the CIA and to continue his missions for it. So after this operation was a success, we were deployed into the fields of Vietnam, with Hudson on our side again. We were sent to Vietnam to go against the Soviet activity in Vietnam and the surrounding countries in Indochina, as the Ho Chi Minh Trail went through Laos and Cambodia. As the Vietnam War intensifies, as the North Vietnamese are doing an assault on South Vietnam, and the Soviets are willing to help another communist nation and take the advantage in Vietnam, as the US was heavily involved in Vietnam. So Vietnam will be the main focus now for Mason. As after the first mission after going to Vietnam, and then the next mission, we have to get the contact with a Russian defector as he has information about Dragovich. As Mason goes through to the bunker, he finds that the Russian defector was dead. But Mason needed to know where Dragovich was, so after fighting in Huo City, we meet up with the defector, and the defector was Reznov.
I am here with a warning. Your government would do well to heed. Dragovich is planning an attack on the west.
Vincent, you get what you came for?
Dragovich, I knew we'd see him again.
What is Reznov doing here? We thought he died back in Vorkuta, but he's the Russian defector. And he tells us that Dragovich must be stopped, and he must die alongside Kravchenko and Steiner. As we exit the building, Mason introduces Reznov to Woods and Bowman.
Men!
Woods, Bowman.
I am Reznov. Viet.
What took you so long, Mason? That intel better be worth it. Leave a niner!
But Woods or Bowman don't even acknowledge Reznov, which is weird because he's standing right there and fighting alongside us. So I guess they're just being a-holes. But since the dossier has important information, we're still needed in Vietnam. But the contents of the dossier goes to Hudson, as it reveals the scientist who worked on the Nova 6 project, Dr. Clark, and Hudson goes to Hong Kong to interrogate him. And the whole thing is about Nova 6, a chemical weapon, and it was going to be deployed in the US, though the stakes are on the high, as the number station is housing the Nova 6 chemical weapons and to activate the sleeper agents in the US that will be planning to use this Nova 6 on the high population areas. So Dr. Clark is important, but he dies before he can reveal the number station. Though they only have one lead left, German scientist called Steiner who worked on the Project Nova, but Dragovich was tying up loose ends. So Dr. Clark was killed because of that, and Steiner would be next. In the next mission, we see the effects of Nova 6. It's a nerve agent and it quickly kills you. Reznov retelling his story to us as he watches Dmitri, his friend, the protagonist from World at War, die in front of him, as Dragovich betrays Reznov and he wanted to see the effects of Nova 6. Due to this, Reznov tells us why Dragovich, Kravchenko, and Steiner must die, as these men are evil. They don't even care about the effects of Nova 6, they just want to use it. As they betrayed Reznov, we see why he was sent for Vorkuta, as now he was an enemy of the Soviet Union. The actions he did at War were all for nothing. He was the hero of the Soviet Union, but yet was treated like a prisoner. He even says something about the chemical weapons that they're too brutal, the methods is too much. As he wanted Nova 6 to never be used, as any country will use to exploit it to their own needs. Like what he says with this quote, as you contribute to anything in a war or something similar to it. The flags may be different, but the methods are the same.
The flag may be different, but the methods are the same.
After he tells us on why these men must die, and we're back in Vietnam playing Mason again, as we try to find Kravchenko. But for the interrogators, they keep asking Mason if Reznov was there. And again, Mason said he was there and he confirms it too. As he's adamant knowing that Reznov was there with him, the interrogators still don't believe Mason. Mason swears Reznov was with them when they were shut down in the North Vietnamese borders along the river. And the plan still goes to find Kravchenko's compound, fight through the river and the jungles and fight against the Vietnamese till the point we have to go into a tunnel, which is scary because the Vietnamese were the masters of the land. They use guerrilla tactics to fight against the Americans and it works really well. It demoralized a lot of the troops. But we have to be a tunnel rat. Hey, once again, Reznov is here with us, and we have Swift along with us on the tunnel.
You nearly took a bullet.
No one fights alone. I will work my way around.
All right, but move quietly.
What the fuck's wrong with you? Mason, you gotta keep your shit.
Wait, what did Swift mean? Reznov was there, and he looks at us like we're crazy when we look back at him. And he tells us to get our head clear, but he dies, so we're forced to go through the tunnel without him as the Vietnamese come out of the dark corners. And by the end, we reach the compound, but Kravchenko wasn't there, and the place was rigged to explode once we exit the facility and we get the document. After retelling the story to the interrogators, they tell us that Reznov can't be trusted, but Mason kept saying Reznov was his friend and he was there as he's been helping him out throughout the whole thing. And also, Mason keeps hearing the numbers and it starts getting to him. Or well, it's starting to get it from him from the start, but it gets more worse. After this, we're headed to Laos to retrieve Nova 6 from a downed Soviet plane that was taken down by the CIA. But towards the end of this mission, we get captured.
Kravchenko.
It's been too long, Mason. We must make up for lost time.
After this, Mason was declared MIA, same thing with Woods and Bowman. But we head back to Hudson as they go to Yamato to get the German scientist, Steiner. But as the retells the story, they keep asking Mason where the broadcast station is, as this is an important point as the world is about to go into World War III. And they need to know where the number station is, as Mason is the only one that knows it. So we get a recounting story of Hudson when he went to Yamato. That was the last place where Steiner was going to be, but he wasn't there as it's revealed at the end of the mission that he was going to be hunted down by Dragovich and that he tells Hudson to go to Rebirth Island. But we head back to Mason as he's captured by the Viet Cong. And during this escapade we play Russian roulette and Bowman gets killed in the action. But after escaping the Viet Cong, we get on a Soviet gunship. We head to the last place of where Kravchenko will be, so Mason can finally kill him. And again, Reznov is here. But as we fight against Kravchenko, Woods sacrificed himself, and it is presumed Woods died, and alongside him Kravchenko. Still, two people that we needed to kill are still alive, and Reznov retells us again that Dragovich, Kravchenko, Steiner all must die. And so, we are headed to Rebirth Island, of where Steiner is located at. Once again, back to the interrogators, Mason keeps urging on that Reznov was alive, and he was there. But to the interrogators, the information they have on Mason is that he went rogue and was MIA, so they had no clue what he was doing. They knew he was there at Rebirth Island and they told him to stand down, but he didn't listen. After Yamato, Hudson was sent to Rebirth Island to handle Steiner, as Steiner is the last person to know where the number station is and is willing to cooperate with them, so they could stop World War III from happening. Mason couldn't help himself. The reason he kept going on was that he was still programmed to kill Steiner and Dragovich, as the numbers kept telling him to do so and keep going on. So as we made it through the facility, we catch up to Steiner and Reznov finally gets his revenge and he kills Steiner right in front of us. And it cuts back to the interrogators, saying that Mason killed Reznov, he saw with his own eyes. But the interrogators revealed that Hudson saw the whole thing.
Sir, we have to stop him now! Damn, it's bulletproof! Mason, what are you doing? We need him alive! Stand down! Stand down!
My name is Defector Reznov, and I will have my revenge!
Mason, no!
Mason was the one who killed Steiner, not Reznov. When Mason kills Steiner, he calls himself Reznov and that he will finally have revenge. And it is confirmed to Hudson that Mason was indeed broken and was hallucinating, as Reznov was never there. He was never here in Rebirth Island. For in fact, throughout the whole journey with Mason, Mason just envisioned Reznov in his head. This whole time, Reznov was just a figment of his imagination. He was never there. He died all the way back in Vorkuta. In the early parts of the game, we get subtle hints of two of this foreshadowing, as we hear the numbers whenever Reznov is on screen, and that the fact the characters don't acknowledge him. And even too, Reznov's personality was put inside Mason. Back in this mission, back into the crash cargo site, we hear Reznov's voice. But the fact was that Bowman responded to us, as he says alright to Mason.
I know. Okay, Mason. Let's go.
His subtle hints confirmed that Reznov's personality was put inside Mason during the events of Vorkuta, as the whole time Reznov wasn't real. Mason just imagined that he was there the whole time. And with this revelation, the interrogators give up, as Mason couldn't figure out where the numbers were being broadcasted, as they failed to crack Mason's mind and retell his memories again. And the interrogators revealed to be Hudson and Weaver. Weaver just gives up, the world's about to end. But Hudson tries to make us remember where the number station is, as he let us out as they're running out of time. Still, Mason was still in his brainwashing state and didn't trust Hudson, so he punches him. So he walks through the halls of I think the CIA building, I might be wrong on that, but I think through the CIA building retelling where's Reznov. So Mason goes down memory lane back up to Vorkuta of where they brainwashed him, with Dragovich, Kravchenko, and Steiner. But with the program, they had difficulty brainwashing Mason as he was resistant to it, but they managed to break him and made him into a sleeper agent, do their bidding. But Reznov somehow reprogrammed us as he hijacked the brainwashing. He made it an order for Mason to kill the men who betrayed him, Reznov, to kill Dragovich, Kravchenko, Steiner, and that they all must die. With this revelation, the brainwashing program inside Mason was broken, and he finally remembers and he gets his memories back of where the number station is, as he's able to decipher them due to the brainwashing program as they use the numbers inside of him. These were some sort of codes, and he remembers and figures out where the number station is and where it is broadcasted, as they were gonna finally attack it to stop Dragovich's plans to causing World War III. Oh, Mason tells Hudson of where it is.
Cuba.
So after the number station was revealed, attack was commenced immediately onto the station, as it was off the coast of Cuba. This was one final effort to stop World War III from happening. So we attacked the Ruskala, where the ship is, as it's above the number station, as the number station is at the bottom of the ocean. As it's going to be set off, it will activate every sleeper agent in the United States and commence the Nova 6 attacks on US soil. So we have to stop it. Blowing up the ship, we head down to the bottom of the ocean floor, as it's being bombed from the surface. We head down there to make sure Dragovich is dead. In the end, Dragovich is killed by Mason's hands. Escape the number station, and we finally fulfills Reznov's revenge. And doing so breaks Reznov's brainwashing program inside of Mason. He did what he couldn't do, and we saved the world with a very American ending. Black Ops 1 is one of the iconic campaigns in COD, due to the major twists it had, as it tricked all of us. We couldn't even see it coming. For the first time, it was really surprising. Of course, I can't recreate it as I'm replaying this game, and I've replayed the campaign multiple times. But it would be really nice again to play this game blind. The twist was really good. If you look back on it, there was so much foreshadowing. And also too, Black Ops 1 did a really good job on being a CIA operative. Of course, the feeling of emotions is not to the same extent of World War, as that makes you feel like a World War II soldier in the front of Soviet Union on the Eastern Front and as an American on the Pacific Front. So the emotions from that game is totally different in this game in BO1. Still, Treyarch at least brought historical events in the story and did them really well. Obviously, it didn't go into the full extent of the Cold War, as we're mostly focusing on the CIA spy agency, the whole espionage war that was going on during this time. Also too, it didn't go into the full extent of the Vietnam War, but again, it showed the events of what the CIA was dealing with in the background, away from the public eye. But of course, probably not to this extent of the campaign's story. Because of course, this was taken for creative liberty. But then again, maybe there was, as there's still classified documents from the Cold War, certain operations. It goes for the KGB and the CIA. But this isn't the end for Mason, as he will come back in BO2. And well, for a future video of BO2 for the campaign, it is kinda scary because some certain events that are going on today, or the way how the game portrays certain events in the story, kinda predicts the future of very well to this day. So stay tuned for that when it comes out. But yeah, that was BO1, an amazing campaign, and if you haven't played it, you should really play it again. But that's enough talking for today. I hope you guys have a nice day. This is Mazer Argo signing out. But before I go, I think Mason's tired enough of being tortured for the day, so he wants to wind down. See you guys in the next video.